So, this hour we are going to be chatting about booze, alcohol. What effects can it have on our health? It's Monday. How was your weekend? Did you indulge? Did you indulge more than you thought you were going to? How did you feel afterwards? I went out on Saturday to what is known as a bottomless brunch, which basically means as much booze as you can drink in 2 hours. That's sort of what it means. Sort of normalised, really. The place was absolutely packed. Wasn't too tipsy. I had a nice time. I was reasonably okay. And then decided to stay out, and then it wasn't reasonably okay and didn't feel great after that. Town was absolutely heaving. So how did I feel yesterday? Not great about it, really. Don't ever drink during the week, but occasionally at the weekend. Not every weekend either, but, we'll get a bit tipsy. And the festive season is upon us. Parties, social gatherings, lots of us end up drinking more than we normally would. But new research from the Alcohol Health Alliance has found that 500 adults in the North East are dying from cancers due to alcohol, and 1 in 10 breast cancer diagnoses are related to alcohol. So what conversations do we need to have? Well, we're going to chat to brilliant women in about the next 10 minutes or so. One is a breast cancer specialist, a breast cancer nurse specialist, and another lady is from Balance North East, which are, alcohol educators. Also, we thought it'd be interesting to talk to somebody who has given up booze, pretty much given up booze, not completely teetotal, but pretty much. Her name's Catherine Harland, and Catherine's a friend of the show. She's a menopause expert. We've talked lots and lots about that. But what I didn't realise was that she had given up alcohol, and I thought, well, that's interesting. Why? And how has it changed her life, really? So we had a chat, and she told me earlier what was the catalyst and why she gave it up a couple of years ago.
My health really deteriorated about 2.5 years ago. I'd moved house to do a renovation. I just thought, it's the stress of the house, which was obviously a nightmare, as well as being 51 at the time, prime menopause age. And I just thought, I'm in that category that has, terrible menopause. However, what I wasn't addressing really was lifestyle, diet and drinking, which is what I promote now. I got up on the New Year's Day, sort of nearly 2 years ago, and I thought, something's got to change here.
Yeah.
I give up dairy. I was a weekend drinker. I was never, ever that sort of person that had a bad day in the office and thought, pour me a glass of wine. Yeah,
like me. Yeah, like a lot of people listening to the show now, Catherine, I think.
Exactly. It certainly was not an alcoholic, or, what people think of, when people go sober, they must have had a drink problem. Not at all. Do I miss it? I genuinely don't. I've had my sister's 60th party this year. I had water all night, and I didn't feel left out at all, not 1%. I was up dancing, whatever. If someone had said that to me a year ago, I'd have been like, absolutely no way.
Yeah.
So, wear it as a badge of honour. I do it because my dopamine hit these days is feeling well.
That's so interesting, and that's what it is with alcohol, is that it is that dopamine hit. But when you look into the science of it, a glass of wine, the dopamine hit actually only lasts about 20 minutes, and then it goes down, and so you want more, and it goes down and you want more because it's a drug. And then what does it do? It crashes you, and it crashes your system and your brain cells and everything.
I know, when you think about it,
it's crazy.
You walk down that aisle, and you think, these are just purely legalised drugs,
Yeah.
See it so differently now, but again, the culture. You watch the soaps, and they're all sat in the Rovers on Coronation Street. It's the hub of our life. This is how it's been created. Drinking has been sort of catalyst to people getting together and chatting and having a good time. So to unravel from that and begin a new way of life, to socialise without drinking, to do different things away from the pub, can be quite challenging for people. Although, like I say, because of my health journey, I was just so happy to feel well that it has not affected me 1% giving up. I've just had a 12-night holiday in Mallorca for my daughter's 30th. And I'll be honest, I don't class myself as teetotal. I had 2 beers and 2 sangrias within the whole 12 days. So no, I totally understand when people, enjoy a drink. They do it to relax. They do it to chill out, whatever. However, let me give you some facts. Alcohol and menopause. So it's a dangerous mix, as we know, because alcohol, menopause symptoms. So depression, anxiety, low moods, insomnia, palpitations, brain fog. They're typical symptoms that we know are associated with menopause. Drink alcohol, and those symptoms will be worse. So again, we've got to help ourselves and give our body what it needs through this sensitive change. It's not called the change for no reason. It's a transition. And if we're plying our bodies with stuff that it can't detox easily and process, we're going to make menopause symptoms worse.
It's so interesting that, Catherine, because really, I think I read somewhere it's one molecule away from nail polish remover. It's ethanol. So basically, ethanol is poison.
Absolutely, Anna. And it's become so normalised.
Yeah.
We don't consider the consequences of what we're actually doing to our body and how it's really preventing us from feeling well.
And the links with breast cancer, which is what we've been chatting about today, they are inextricably linked.
Oh, they really absolutely are. And when I did my training, I was told that a glass of wine will cause cancer above taking HRT. Yeah. That's the scientific fact. But the other thing I really want to point out is gut health. And people are going to go, what's gut health got to do with, having a couple of glasses of wine here and there? So 95% of serotonin is made in the gut, not in the brain as many people think. Oh. Many people take antidepressants, etc., to increase the serotonin, to make them feel better. But yet, anything we put into our gut, even a tiny little tablet such as an antidepressant, has an effect on the gut. Therefore, if we throw alcohol into the mix and we have it regularly, you're just nuking the gut. You're nuking your well-being, your feel-good factor. We all need serotonin, to get a balance, feeling good. And the other thing is immunity. Our immune system is also pretty much made in our gut, 70% of it. So, again, alcohol into the mix.
Yeah.
It is our second brain, Anna. You heard of the gut-brain axis. We've also got, that you get butterflies, you get that gut feeling. Our gut is our second brain. So if we're putting alcohol in it regularly, it's not going to... Is it?
I bet you have no regrets, Catherine, about giving up. None.
Here's Christmas coming up. Will I have a glass of champagne? Maybe. I know one glass of champagne is not going to happen. It's if you were having a bottle.
Which is what you would, what I would do every weekend. Well, not champagne, but every weekend I would probably have a bottle of Prosecco, yeah.
Precisely, like most women, men, whatever do. Of course.
Yeah.
I don't judge anyone doing it. I understand why, because I was that person.
Yeah.
And it's only because of my health journey that it kind of forced me. My body was screaming. And there's a saying which I think is really apt in anything health-wise. Our body whispers to us. It gives us signs to listen, to change. If we don't listen to the whispers, it screams.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I changed.
Super interesting, Catherine. If people want to find you on the social medias, where can they find you?
I'm Menopause Mentor and Catherine Harland. Always happy to chat to anyone about all of this stuff, Anna.
Brilliant. Catherine, cheers with a no secco. Thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Anna.
So interesting that, isn't it? Catherine, thank you. If you don't listen to your body whispering, it starts screaming at you. It is 11:21. We've got Shaka Khan on the way. We'd love your calls and thoughts on this. 81333, start your messages with BBC. Is it something you've been thinking about? Is it something you've seen on your social media feeds? The whole idea about, being sober curious, or just even drinking a little bit less. I think maybe that might be a good place to start. If you want to come on and chat to us, we'd love that. 81333, start your messages with BBC. And we are going to talk to a breast cancer nurse about that story that came out last week. So all of that will be coming up shortly. It's 11:20. Obviously, festive season upon us, parties, social gatherings. Lots of people might be drinking a little bit more than they normally would. Now, there's some new research out from the Alcohol Health Alliance that has, some pretty stark findings, I think. And I heard this story last week and I thought, you know what? We need to chat about this on this radio show. It's so important. This is the Northeast. We need to talk about this. We need to share this conversation. And in doing that, I'll have to show my honesty as well, and vulnerabilities as far as this particular subject's concerned. We think it's important to find out a little bit more. So you're going to hear, or you have heard from somebody who's given up alcohol in the last couple of years. And you're also hearing from my brilliant studio guest today, Caroline Tweedy, who is a breast cancer nurse specialist and head of alcohol policy for Fresh and Balance, Sue Taylor. So welcome to the studio. Thank you so much for being with us, ladies. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So first of all, Sue, just tell us about this research, because it shocked me.
Well, what we've found is that in the Northeast, there's around 500 people every year who are dying from alcohol-related cancers. And, I think for me, I totally agree. It is a really shocking statistic. I think in this region, we've got the worst rates of hospital admissions. We've got the worst rates of alcohol-related deaths.
And is that in the country?
This is anywhere in the country.
That's awful.
So, there's a lot of commonality, I think, in Scotland, where policies are much better. But here in this region, I think there is that really entrenched feeling of drinking and, the knock-on consequences now that it's having a really really, really stark.
Yeah, that was a very stark figure. When I heard that figure, I was shocked. And then you start thinking about yourself and your own habits. And Caroline, just talk to us about the work that you do then, and explain on a day-to-day basis how our drinking affects what you do.
Yeah, so like I say, it's had quite a profound effect on me, seeing the actual statistics. Like I say, I'm somebody that drinks alcohol. I feel like, the research that's coming through now just demonstrate that 1 in 10 breast cancers are caused by the effects of alcohol. I mean, that was quite shocking for me to see. And when we put it into statistics, I work for Gateshead Health, that would be approximately 70 women a year we could stop coming through just by reducing the amount of alcohol we drink. Now, the 3 biggest causes of breast cancer are 3 things we can't do anything about. Getting older, being a woman, genetics. Those are the things we can't do anything about, and they're the biggest risks. But one of the other risks is that alcohol.
And it's so interesting that, because I think growing up, I'm 51 now, and I had never equated. I'd always considered smoking because it had always been on the back of the packets, and it had always been something we were told as kids. But never did I equate alcohol and cancers. I just thought it was a random thing. It happened. It was very sad when it happened. It was a random thing. But there are things that we can do and try to do to mitigate those risks, I suppose.
I mean, it's a group 1 carcinogen, which is...
Just say that again for me.
It is a group 1 carcinogen. It is the same as asbestos. It's the same as smoking. When you look back in the 40s and 50s and how, smoking was normalised, this is what's happened with alcohol now. And they've buried all of these statistics under this normalisation. It's like the social glue is alcohol. Yeah. We can't go out. It's the only recreational drug where you fit made that you're not taking.
Yeah, it's really strange, isn't it? Because you wouldn't go into a room and meet people and they go, oh, what, you're not taking cocaine?
Yes.
No, really, you should be taking cocaine. Have another bit of cocaine. It just wouldn't happen. Yeah. It's just, it is extraordinary.
Well, I think for me as well, the way that women have been targeted by the alcohol industry is really interesting. So, I started going out probably in the 90s, and I remember the real ladette culture. Yeah. And I just think, that the kind of really aggressive marketing, we call it the pinkification of things like gin, at the supermarket, and all the presents for women at Christmas time and on Mother's Day, they're all alcohol related. And actually, it's this kind of alcoholic society that we do need to tackle. And, clearly you see how the government has acted in relation to tobacco. There are so many restrictions in place, but when it comes to alcohol, there's nothing there. There's no legislation to tackle it. So that for me is the biggest gap.
Right, and we're going to talk about that in 2 ticks. We're going to go back to that actually, and how we kind of change our attitudes towards it. But if I can just go back to why alcohol causes cancer, can you explain that to us, Caroline? What is it? Is it damage to the cells when we drink? What actually happens?
It is. It's a carcinogen. It's the chemicals that's broken down in the substance when we drink. In particular with breast cancer, the science behind that is that 2/3 of breast cancers are driven by a hormone called estrogen. Now, when we drink alcohol, it increases that hormone in our body, so we're driving that further and further up. And obviously, as we get older, our livers can't metabolize those toxins in the same way in our 20s and 30s. We are seeing a rise in number of breast cancers, and 23% of breast cancers overall are caused by lifestyle. So like I say, getting old, we can't do anything about, our DNA,
It's a privilege to get old, so maybe we have to respect ourselves more.
Yeah, but I think women, society, women are very breast aware. They come to our clinics, they're checking their breasts, checking for lumps, and I think they'd be really, really shocked to understand why that's caused in that way. It certainly had an effect on me in knowing that.
Absolutely. And another thing that you mentioned, because I've watched the video that you've done, and I think it's brilliant, isn't it? So it's a brilliant video that you've done on YouTube, Caroline. You can find that if you're listening to us now on BBC Radio Newcastle. You can find it and have a look. But you talk about how it changes other hormones as well, and your leptin and ghrelin. So leptin is the hormone that makes you feel full, isn't it? And ghrelin makes you feel hungry. And alcohol also increases your ghrelin. So explain what that does to us.
So like I say, estrogen is what sometimes is spating these breast cancers. So when we drink alcohol, and they say a bottle of wine, 650 calories, which is just huge. And then
It's
when
cake in a glass, isn't it?
it is.
Yeah.
And then on a night time, we don't get the proper sleep. We don't get that recovery sleep. And then the next day, those hormones are affected. So the way that we would normally be satisfied by food, or the way we crave food, is changed due to this hormonal imbalance throughout the sleep. And again, when we're going through menopause, those hormones aren't regulated in the first place. And then with the alcohol, it just takes it up the next gear. So when our fat cells in our body, the more fat cells we have, the more estrogen we have circulating in our body. So that's why, again, obesity and breast cancer, there's quite a strong link between that as well. So it has a bit of a knock-on effect with our hormones when we're drinking.
And I don't want this to sound preachy, because if you listen to this show now thinking, God, she's no angel. I'm not, because I had pizza and I had a pasta yesterday. And why did I do that? Because I was hungover.
Yeah.
I was hungover, and that's and then I didn't sleep. So it's very, very interesting. If you have just joined us on BBC Radio Newcastle, we're chatting about this really interesting research that came out. I think it was last week or the week before last week. This very big story about the number of breast cancers that are linked to alcohol. Alcohol Health Alliance found 500 adults in the North East are dying from cancers due to alcohol, and 1 in 10 breast cancer diagnoses are related to alcohol. So I am with Sue, who is the gaffer from the alcohol. That's a technical term. Head of policy for Fresh and Balance, and also with Caroline, who's a specialist breast cancer nurse. So we're going to chat some more very shortly. 81333, start your messages with BBC if you'd like to join in.
On your smart speaker, play BBC Radio Newcastle. BBC Radio Newcastle.
But I'm really grateful today to have two very busy ladies who do brilliant jobs. Caroline Tweedy with me, a specialist breast cancer nurse. And also we have got with me Sue Taylor, who is head of alcohol policy for Fresh and Balance. And the reason that we're chatting today about alcohol is that there's a story that emerged in the last couple of weeks, which had just really struck a chord with me. And I thought, given the job that I do, we should chat about this. The Alcohol Health Alliance has found that 500 adults in the North East are dying from cancers due to alcohol, and 1 in 10 breast cancer diagnoses in the region are related to alcohol. Now, if you missed us chatting a little bit earlier, please go back on BBC Sounds, because we've been talking about why it is that alcohol can affect cancer rates, what it is it does to us and what it does to our hormones, and I think that's quite interesting. But if I can just tell you about the kind of culture of alcohol, and I guess it's your job to educate us, Sue. Just talk to us about why there is this culture that we can't do anything without it.
Well, I think for me, it's really interesting. We've seen over a number of years now facts around alcohol changing. So, you'll know when you go into a supermarket, you see alcohol pretty much everywhere. It's the end of all the aisles. It's in all the Christmas displays. So actually, you can't escape it in that context. It's also a lot more affordable than it used to be. So, relative to, say, 1980, it is significantly more affordable, and more people, I think, are able to buy nowadays. So we're seeing essentially a product that's really heavily marketed, really affordable relative to other things. And actually, again, it's very much available in different contexts. You've got the hairdresser, you've got the florist. Anywhere nowadays, alcohol is available. So that the context, I think, has changed a lot. And, for me as a woman, I think, who started going out, maybe 20 years ago now, actually, it's all around you. And I think the pressure to drink that comes from peers, I think Caroline described it in her video, it is really big, and that pressure comes from the alcohol industry encouraging us to think that this is a normal everyday product that you have to use to be really successful and fun and sociable, and it needs to be a part of everyday life.
When actually it's one molecule away from nail polish remover.
Absolutely, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
With ethanol,
Yeah.
It has an effect on your gut, when you think that what you clean your kitchen with is essentially alcohol, and that's exactly what it does to the bacteria in your bowel as well, which again, if you have bowel issues, it's just going to exacerbate those problems as well. It has huge profound effects on all parts of the body.
And talk to us a little bit about when you're doing your job, and I've seen on the video, but delivering those words to somebody and to a family, to a woman who has a family, you have cancer, that's hard.
I mean, lives implode when people hear the words, you have cancer. And like say, it's 1 in 10, that's 70 women just in my small department. We wouldn't have to give those words. We wouldn't have women who didn't know whether they were going to lose a breast or lose a hair, or, the impact that it has on their own family. if we could do something about that, it would just be absolutely incredible, for our patients and, the women throughout the country. But again, those messages have been hidden under those layers of, the alcohol industry, that this is normal, this is good for you, this is going to help with, relax, and it's a depressant.
Yeah. That's the other thing, yeah. Let's not forget about that. So your dopamine and your serotonin, which obviously are your kind of happy hormones and what have you, they are suppressed, aren't they? It lifts you for a little bit, but then suppresses you because your body can't cope with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're searching for that dopamine feeling. You've had a heavy day at work, you want to go home, and you associate it with this, feel-good factor when you have that first drink. And you do get that initial kind of pump, and then afterwards the body kind of recognises, and the dopamine levels drop far further down than what the body will accept, and that's when those mental health issues will start.
And is that when things can tip over and people can argue, their perception has changed, their values are changed? Is it because our bodies can't cope with that low level of dopamine?
Yeah, and that's especially as well those low levels of dopamine and serotonin as we hit the menopause, and at a certain age those hormones are already considerably low, and you're trying to juggle children, you're trying to juggle work and everything else and that, and you think that alcohol's the answer, and it's actually going to contribute to even further bad moods and low moods.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what we can do, because we're not here saying never drink again, because practically it's probably not going to happen. So what do we do about it then, Sue? What would you say? How do we change?
Well, I think there are a number of things. The irony is we know what works. So, when we're speaking to government, it's very much about the legislation that we know works. So we've seen it with tobacco, increasing the price, reduces consumption, reducing availability, and reducing the promotion of alcohol as well is really effective when it comes to reducing the harms. But I think for us as well, running mass media campaigns is so important, raising awareness of the fact. We mentioned earlier on actually that people aren't aware that alcohol causes cancer. Only about a third of people in the North East know that information. So giving people the information they need to make those informed choices, but also regulating the market so that actually the alcohol industry isn't able to promote its products in such a way. And that needs to start with government action. So, for me, that's absolutely fundamental.
And what about us as women together supporting each other in our bid to try and drink less, and not say, hey, let's meet in the town, let's get hammered in Harry's? I'm just being honest, but is it about let's have one drink, let's have two drinks, and then let's go and have a wander around the Christmas markets and go home? We don't have to stay out and get hammered and fall over and then feel horrible.
And like you say, support one another. And for me, I recently went to a party where somebody just said, I'm not having a drink. And instead of, I was quite inspired by that, to think, she had the strength to say, I don't want to have another one.
Yeah.
Now, even with breast cancer patients, they're at more at risk of cancers returning if they continue to drink after a diagnosis. And I worked for a 6-month trial on women who were going through the rehabilitation process after cancer. And the little white lies they had to tell them, because they knew it was risk, but they were still getting a lot of pressure from people around. You have to be normal, you have to get back to what you were, and they understood that. So again, social pressure is huge. Like I say, it's social glue. That's what alcohol's become.
So if we find out our why we're not doing it, because it's really bad for us genuinely, and find another way to find joy and another way to find the dopamine, that's the way forward.
And say there's the dry Januaries and all of those different, you can do your month at any time, and do a month, see how you feel at the end of the month. You'll probably feel a bit slimmer, you'll probably feel a little bit happier, you'll have a little bit more in the back pocket with money wise. But it's certainly worth, from me personally, I started drinking when I was 17, 18. I've spent most of my life having a drink once a week, and it's like trying to remind yourself, actually, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Maybe just giving yourself that opportunity to see what life is like without it.
It's more clarity, a lot more. And you can remember what you've done instead of spending lots of money on and not remembering the night. Sue, amazing to chat to you. Thank you so much. If people want more information, where can they come? Where should they go to find out if they? And this is not about somebody who is alcoholic. Just somebody who wants more information to learn a little bit more about alcohol, what it really is and what it really does to you.
Well, I think for me, I'd say go to our reducemyrisk.tv website. It's a fantastic resource, actually. It supports our campaign, gives you loads of information about cancer and alcohol and all the various things it causes, but it also has lots of information to help you cut down too. So that's where I'd encourage people, reducemyrisk.tv.
Excellent.
Yeah. And just for women to be breast aware, and like I say, breast cancer now, we've got some really great resources as well to understand a little bit more risk about breast cancer and alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you're busy, ladies, so thank you so much for coming in. Caroline and Sue, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for making a difference.
Make a difference.
BBC Radio Newcastle.